Okay, good morning, everyone. So we'll start today. So, okay, can you see the PPT here? Abhishek?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. So Professor Panduravan is supposed to give the lecture, but since he is traveling, so I'll be giving the lecture for all three sessions. Okay, so we'll start with the blockchain 2.0. So blockchain 1.0 was about the cryptocurrency. The application was only limited to cryptocurrency. And in the blockchain 2.0, after that, there are applications other than the cryptocurrency. Okay, so we'll just see in the blockchain 2.0, the Ethereum blockchain comes. Okay, now we'll see. Okay, so before that, one more slide. This slide you will see many places. So obviously the blockchain is distributed database. Okay, so all where the data are stored. So blockchain basically is like a database. You can say distributed database. So it will be compared with the central database. It will be compared with the database. Okay, central database. Now if you see the bottom side, the throughput. So we have permissionless blockchain is like where you don't need permission. The blockchain, when the participant, they can join, they can leave the blockchain on their way, on their wish. Okay, so you don't need permission. So that is called permissionless blockchain. That is called permissionless blockchain. Okay. For example, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is permissionless blockchain. Ethereum also it can be permissionless, it can be permissioned also both. Now, permission blockchain is basically where you need permission to join the blockchain. Okay, the example is Hyperledger. Okay, so the Hyperledger is the permission blockchain. So if you see this side here, so obviously it will be, since it stores the data, so it will be compared with the central database. Now you see here the throughput. The throughput is very low in the permissionless blockchain, and you can see the database is very high. Okay. Similarly, you can see latency is very low, slow, and here very fast. And this is medium, and this is high. So the performance and other things is okay. Other things are comparable, but these two things, throughput and latency, you see, the central database is very high. Is very high compared to the permissionless blockchain and permission blockchain. So thing is the blockchain should be used. So we have to see when to use blockchain, because its performance is not good compared to the database. It should not be used only sake of a big the current trend. The blockchain right now is current trend, so we should not use based on the popularity of these. You should see. So this is the slide where it says when to use blockchain. Okay, so this they are given here. So do you need to store state? If it is no, then don't use blockchain. Okay, so if it is yes, then you have to see, are there multiple writers? Yes, then maybe. If no, then you should not use the blockchain. If yes, can you use an always online TTP? So whenever you have in any system, if you have trusted third party, then one should not use blockchain. So better to use central database. So that will be good, because we trust, all the people trust one party, then better to use central database. And then you can see here, are all writers known? No, permissionless. Then we have this. So basically, the thing is, if you have trusted third party, then you should not use blockchain. You should use the central database. So this is a slide for when to use blockchain. Okay. Okay. Now we'll see the blockchain 2.0. So blockchain 2.0 started with the Ethereum blockchain, and this is Ethereum decentralized platform. That the extra part was here in this in the blockchain 2.0 smart contract. So we'll see what is the smart contract. and that is, it was started in the 2014, developed by the Ethereum Foundation. This is no profit company with. Okay, so this was started, and in Ethereum they are having the Ether. So the Ethereum also has cryptocurrency, that is Ether. Okay, so it is more than the cryptocurrency. It has cryptocurrency plus plus some other applications, smart contract objects. Okay. So Ethereum blockchain is the most popular blockchain for developing the smart contract. We'll see what is smart contract. So Ethereum is, it can be public, it can be private. Okay, that. And with the built-in Turing complete language, that Solidity. So Solidity is used here to allow writing any smart contract. So the language used in the smart contract, the Ethereum smart contract, is Solidity, and the Ether is the cryptocurrency used in the Ethereum network. Okay. So what is the smart contract? So before we see one slide, traditional contract. Okay, how the traditional contract works, and smart contracts also somewhat similar to the traditional contract. You see the traditional contract, two parties, they are going for contract. So what they will do? They will write the contract. Okay, and then they will write the contract, and then they will give it to the audit person. An audit person will refine the contract. So we discuss with both the parties, and it will refine, and that contract, after that, once it is defined and both parties they are agree on that contract, and the both parties will sign, and that will be kept in the safe place, maybe with the office, the government office, district magistrate office. Okay, so that it is kept there. Okay, and both will follow that. Both parties will follow the contract. Now, suppose after some time, the one party makes the different interpretation. So he makes the interpretation which other party is not agree with that interpretation. So what will happen? Some conflict will be there. So then the both party will go to the court. Okay, and court will hear both the parties, and the court will make the right interpretation. Okay, it will make the right interpretation, and in that process, so basically here the interpretation, the final interpretation will be by the court, and there is a court, there is a judge. Okay, and if some party goes makes the wrong interpretation, he may be punished. He may be punished. So this is what happens in the centralized system, in the traditional contract. Okay, so contract kept in the office, and maybe more than one interpretation, and then there is a judge, and he may punish if someone goes makes a wrong interpretation. Okay, so this is a traditional contract. Now the smart contract, as okay, so smart contract was, the idea was given by Nick Szabo in 1994. Okay, 1994, but it was not realized. It was realized only when blockchain came in 2008. After 2008 only, people are thinking about the implementing the smart contract. So idea was given by Nick Szabo. So the basic idea is given that in a car, he gave the example of car. So someone has bought the car. Okay, so he told that there can be one smart contract inside the car. Smart contract is basically one code. So it's code, program code, which now that code be kept inside the car, and it will execute like this way. So every month, suppose the car owner has to give the EMI to the bank. So this smart contract is basically between the bank and the car owner. So car owner has taken the loan from the bank, okay, and he has to pay the EMI. So what the contract says that if three continuous month, if the car owner does not pay the EMI, so what will happen? The code is like this one: first month and second month and third month, if continuous 3 months, the car owner does not pay the EMI, then the code will automatically lock the car. Okay, and the bank people will come and they will take the car. Okay, so they say that if some kind of code can be kept in the car, that will be good for the bank person, and if the owner is giving EMI regularly, then no problem. Okay, so the problem was like this one. Idea was very good. So idea was good, but if you keep this code inside the car, and the car is with the car owner. Okay, so you can change the code. So you can change the code. Okay, so this idea was realized. It was realized when blockchain came. So now what they can do is that this code they can keep inside the blockchain, and the blockchain will be inside the car. Okay, so now the car owner cannot change the code. If you change the code, the bank will know it. Okay, so then although the smart contract idea was very old, but it was realized only when the blockchain came to existence. Okay, because we know now that the contract, the code can be kept into a safe place. Okay, so this is the smart contract. So now this is the process. Smart contract is a program. So now how smart contract is different from the traditional contract. So this is a smart contract. They will write the code between two parties in terms of code. They will make a contract in terms of code, and that code again will be refined by the audit person, and then it will be kept inside the blockchain and maybe where it is. Okay. So now in this contract, there is no trusted third party. There is no okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So in this case, yeah. So the smart contract is a code here. Now contract is a code here, and in this case, the audit will refine it, and that will be kept inside the blockchain. And blockchain inside the blockchain. Now comes to the execution. So as you see in the blockchain, there is no trusted party. So there will not be any court. There will not be any judge. Okay. The execution, the interpretation will be only one. There will be unique interpretation. The way the code will work. Okay. So in this case, there will be only one interpretation, and there is no concept of punishment because there is no trusted party. Okay. So this is the way. So in the traditional contract, there may be more than one interpretation, but in this contract, there will be only one interpretation. That the way the code will work. Okay, so that will be the interpretation. That will be the final interpretation, and all the parties they have to agree on it. Okay, all the parties they have to agree on it, and this will be non-reversible and autonomous, and there will not be any concept anything like punishment. Okay, because there is no trusted party. So this is the way it works. Okay, so now formally we'll define the smart contract. As I told you, is an executable code that runs on the blockchain to facilitate, execute, and enforce the agreement between the untrusted parties. Okay, this without the involvement of trusted third. This is the smart contract. Okay, a smart contract can be called through the transactions. So it is inside the blockchain. Everything is in terms of transactions. Okay, so what you do is you want to put the smart contract inside the blockchain. It has to be called through transaction. Okay, and these smart contracts are irreversible and immutable. You cannot change it because it is inside the blockchain. You know, if somebody try to change the blockchain, people will know it. Okay, that already you have seen. Now, how it interacts? This is the blocks, block I plus one, this one. So inside the block, there will be the contract. So maybe inside the one transaction. So blocks will have 5-10 transactions. So maybe one of the transaction inside one of the transaction can have the contract, and the input of the contract can be money, the currency, cryptocurrency, and output also can be cryptocurrency, and the input and output both can be data also. So this is the C. So the input can be cryptocurrency, output can be cryptocurrency, and the input and output can be data. So this is the way a smart contract works. Okay, so it is, see, in the blockchain, everything is in terms of transaction. The smart contract will be inside the transaction. Okay, so this, okay, these are blocks. Clear? Okay. So smart contract programming. So Solidity is an object-oriented, content-oriented, high-level language, just like C++, Java, implementing smart contract. So in this case, they are using Solidity. Smart contracts are programs which govern the behavior of accounts within the Ethereum state. We'll see what is accounts. Solidity is statically typed, supports inheritance like C++ libraries and complex user-defined types, among other features. So these are the Solidity's properties of Solidity. Okay, so now I'll give you one smart, one small example of the smart contract code. Okay, so for this one, you have Pragma Solidity 0.4. This is the major one. So you see here, it is the Pragma is the directive that specifies the compiler version to be used for the current Solidity file. Okay, so you have two versions are there. Two versions comprise of two numbers. One is the major build, another minor build. So this first part is the major one, and the second part is the minor one. Okay, so 4 is the major build and 19 is the minor build. So this we have tried. So this is the compiler version to be used in that context. The fourth is the major one, and this is the minor. Okay, so this is the first. And then we have code for the contract. So let's say this is the contract for counter. Okay, so which counts the number of person inside a hall. Okay, so inside a hall it counts the number of persons. So starting when the no one is there inside the hall, so starting on the count is 0, assigned 0, and whenever the person enters the hall, he can execute this function increment. So when this function increment is used, so we'll see later on when somebody calls the function, and it will give the transaction which will contain count is incremented. Count will be +1. Okay, count will be incremented by 1, and that transactions will be added into the blockchain. So, okay, so calling a function results in a transaction, and that transaction will be added into the blockchain. So I told you the everything inside blockchain is through transaction. Okay, so when the person calls the function increment, the results in transaction, the transaction will update the count value, and that is added into the blockchain. So now the count is 1. Okay, and similarly other persons will increment. So finally, let's say the count is 50. Now some other person wants to leave the hall, so you can decrement this function. You can call this function. That will result in the decrement in the count value, and by 1, and that will give the it will decrease the count value. Okay, so basically count will show the number of person inside the hall. You want to return this count, then this is okay. This is a simple code for the simple example of the smart contract. It's similar to C++ and Java. You can see variables, functions, all these things. Okay, okay. This we have seen. Okay. Now functions, as I told you, functions in a contract is called, it results in the creation of transaction, and that transaction will be added into the blockchain. Okay, so the blockchain will have updated value of the number of persons inside the. Okay, then this is similar to C++ and Java. We have the function type. So public, already you may be knowing it, functions can be accessed directly from the outside. Internal, it means that function can be used within the current contract and any other contract that inherits from it. Okay, and then we have private also, can only be used in the contract declaring them. They cannot be used even within the derived contracts. So the inheritance, everything is there also in this Solidity also. Similarly, external, and the default function is public, and default variable is internal. So similarly, you can define private variable, public variable, and internal variable. So default is public and internal. Okay. So there is again the mapping. So some kind of hash table or dictionary storing key value pair. So key, and then let's say the if you see the voting system, the key value of the candidate, a number of votes he got. Okay, so that kind of things mapping. Okay. Constructor, as we have in the C++ and Java, there is also concept of constructor. Okay, so constructor, now the difference is the constructor, we've seen C++, constructor is executed whenever a new object instance is created. So let's say class, you might have C++ class, let's say class student. So when you say student S1, that time these constructors are executed. When you create the object, that time these constructors are executed. Here, construct in the Solidity, it is a little bit different from the Solidity, a little bit different. Here in the smart contract, whenever the smart contract is deployed into the blockchain, the constructor function is instantiated or called. Okay, that time only the constructor function is called. Okay, so when you deploy the smart contract inside the transaction and you deploy the transaction into the blockchain, that time this constructor in the smart contract is instantiated or called. Okay, so generally how it is used, so the constructor will be inside the constructor, the code will be that to know the owner. Okay, so inside the constructor the code will be what they will do, the owner is the person who's deployed. Okay, so they will set the owner, because the one has to be the owner of the contract. Okay, and that can be done through the constructor, because constructor immediately once you deploy, the constructor will be executed and it will set the owner. So that is the purpose generally it is used. Okay, there can be at most one constructor. So if you see many constructors will be there in C++. Okay, so here only one constructor doesn't return any data expression. That is the difference. Has the same name as contract and take parameters. Okay, so these are some properties of constructor which is similar to that one. Only difference one is that it is executed when it is deployed. Okay, when the contract is deployed. Okay, so now we'll see the same contract, counter contract. We'll see using this example. Same example. What we have done is, now we have given the constructor counter, and inside that one we have kept count 0. So what will happen? The starting, it will be count 0. Okay, so this is the way. So the constructor uses this way to give the starting value. Sometimes this way, or sometimes to set the owner. Who is the owner? Okay, that. So again, just to say. Okay, so this is the in Ethereum also we have Ether cryptocurrency, and this Ether cryptocurrency somehow is similar to the Bitcoin only. And here also they are using for the consensus algorithm. Yesterday you see the mining, the proof of work, that they are using same as Bitcoin. They are using the proof of work, so in which the person who solves the puzzle will have right to add the block into the blockchain. Okay, and it will be rewarded someone. So here the money is, I think, less. I don't know. So how it is called? Will be rewarded 5 Ether. Okay, so here the new transactions are broadcasted to all the nodes, and the special node track the transaction, add them into candidate block. Okay, the node solves the puzzle, will be able to add new block into the blockchain. So whoever solves the puzzle, we have seen the same yesterday. We have seen the hash puzzle. So he has to the miner has to choose one nonce. Other things are almost fixed that he cannot change much. So yes, only he can change his nonce. So nonce he will choose, and he will find the hash of that block. If that hash of the block is less than, let's say, target value, then it means he has solved the hash problem. Okay, and then he will have the right to add new block into the blockchain, and for that he will be rewarded 5 ETH, and rest is same. Okay, so now disadvantage, as you have seen, this proof of work requires huge amount of energy, roughly 54 terawatt per year, and which is the electricity requirement of New Zealand or Hungary. This we have seen in the yesterday class. Okay, so now the other options. So there is options. Maybe tomorrow, maybe some after time. Proof of stake may replace the proof of work. So the idea here is, let's say in the Bitcoin or in Ether, there are some people are there. He has out of, maybe he has 2 lakh Bitcoin. Okay, B has somewhat 50,000 Bitcoin, and C may have, or you can say he has 20%, he has 15%, something like that, and he has 10%. Okay, so tomorrow, now if the system goes well, then it is okay. Now suppose they do something goes wrong with the Bitcoin, and the value of the Bitcoin goes down, or you can say value of the Ether goes down. Who will be the big loser? These people will be the big loser. So now let's say now one Bitcoin is $50,000. Okay. Now tomorrow, if the value of this Bitcoin, something goes wrong with the Bitcoin, people they don't trust, that they lose the trust from the public, then the value of the Bitcoin will go down. Then who will be the loser? These people will be the big loser. Okay, so the thing is, these people will try to make, they will not do anything. I assume that because it is benefit for them, they will try to make this system more successful. Okay, they'll try to make the system more, they will not try to do anything wrong with the system. Okay, so it is assumed that they will be more honest towards that system. Okay, so it is based on, proof of stake is based on this idea that those who have the money, those who have the stake, they will behave honestly, because if they lose, if the system goes down, they will be the big loser. So that is the idea used in the proof of stake. So what is done is, there is the attributing mining power is proportional to the coins held by the miner. So for example, if the Alice has 20%, Bob has 15%, and others have 5%. So what will do? What would happen? So you can say the Alice will have. So if you have Alice will be given to 20% numbers. You can say some numbers. Another person will be given 15% numbers. Some will have 5% numbers, and then one number will be chosen randomly from it. Okay, and the person who is having that number will be the miner, and that person can add the block into the blockchain. Okay, so now what will happen? This Alice has 20% coins here, so obviously with the probability 0.2, he can add the block into the blockchain, so you will have more chances. Okay, so this is the way proof of stake works. So you can see, assumption that the majority of the wealth in the system is controlled by the honest participant, and the rationale behind proof of stake is that users who have significant stakes in the system have an economic incentive in keeping the system running according to the protocol specification, as they risk that their stakes will become worthless if the trust in the cryptocurrency vanishes. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so the fourth part is,
sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, tell me.
You were telling about the proof of stack and
Stake.
consensus stake and then proof of work. What is the basic difference between these two things? Here
Yeah.
you are telling a miner will be the power is proportion to the coin held by the miner. But in case of proof of work, what is the
proof of
thing?
work, as yesterday we have seen, proof of work is here basically the person has to solve the puzzle, the hash
Okay.
puzzle. Yeah. So if he able to solve the hash puzzle, then you will have right to add the new block. Then he can add the new block into the blockchain,
Okay.
and for that you will be rewarded the 5 ether.
Good.
So it's similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as you've seen, Bitcoin initially it was 50 Bitcoin, now it is 6.25 Bitcoin. So this
Yes.
here they are otherwise why the honest person will do the mining work? So he should be rewarded to motivate the honest person to do the mining work. This is the money. Not only this money, in the transaction money also will be there. In the transaction, yesterday we have shown this is the transaction money. That is optional, but that's optional. But otherwise, that is optional. But that will be the motivating factor for the miner to add that transaction into the block. Okay,
Good.
this
Okay.
and here the idea is here those who have money, they have the stakes in the system, and they have to run the system smoothly according to the protocol. If they don't do, and tomorrow the public lose interest in the ether, or you can say Bitcoin, what will happen? It will come down, and they will be the big loser. So that's why they have given the mining rights to these people. Okay, and we cannot do this from starting one. So once some people have the money, then only one can do the proof of stake. So maybe after some times the proof of work may be replaced by the proof of stake. Okay, this already we have seen was valid. So similarly in Ethereum also same thing. Ethereum also same thing. You have private key, public key, and hash of public key. That is the address. The transaction is between the addresses A1 to, let's say, K1. So these are the addresses. Okay, and here are some numbers. It's some random number because the hash of public is some random number. So this is the one. And now, if someone this is my address 5612449. This is the address, and someone has sent 2 Bitcoin to this address. Now I have to claim that Bitcoin. So what I have to do is I have to produce a signature on message M that I cannot choose. That will be specified. You see maybe the tomorrow class. Okay, what should be the M on which the person has to make the signature. Okay, so I have to make the signature on M using the private key corresponding to this address. Corresponding to this address using this private key. Okay, and the signature on M you produce, and you have to give the public key also. Okay, and the verifier will verify whether this signature is correct or not, because you can see the verification can be done by the public key. Okay, and he will check whether this is correct or not. Once he finds that the signature is correct, what he will do? Then again he has to check whether this address is hash of this public key or not. Okay, so if this address is hash of this public key, then the verifier will be satisfied that this address belongs to the person who has signed on the message. Okay, this is what we have done. And then we see already we have seen to make it anonymity, pseudonymity. They have provided the users can have any number of pairs of private key address P1, A1. So you can have hundreds of. Okay, so this is the what we have seen. Okay, so to claim the address, one has to produce signature on message M using the private key corresponding to this address. Okay, so the wallet is nothing but, so wallet is here nothing but you have to store the private key and address. This is the wallet. So you have to store this one. Either you store in the online, or maybe you can store in your system or some other safe place. That will be the way. So we'll see this more. Okay. Okay, so accounts and wallets. So now we'll see another part, the accounts and wallets. So we have the accounts. First, we see the accounts. Basically, wallets are part of accounts. So two kinds of accounts: external owned accounts, which is, you can say, wallet. Okay. So this is by person. So the addresses which we have discussed just now. So my address is this one. I have one address. Okay. So those are called external owned accounts. The contract account owned by the code. Okay. So the smart contracts also, they have account. Okay. So you can transfer money to the contract. Okay. So that will be stored in the contract account. And the contract is owned by the owner. There will be the owner, as you see, the constructor. It can be decided who is the owner. Okay. So the constructor function, one can decide who is the owner. Okay. So two types of accounts. One is the EOI, as you say, just now we have seen addresses, and then another is the account owned by the code. Okay. And the second part is allow for interaction with the blockchain. So one can transfer. You see that part. And the wallet is set off. See, wallet is set off one or more external accounts used to store and transfer Ether, as same as the Bitcoin. Clear? Okay. Okay, here it is. Okay, so okay, I'll later on. Okay. Yeah, okay. So now there is the concept of gas and gas cost in Ethereum to deny the denial of service attack, to save the denial of service attack. Okay, so the problem in, see, if you don't put these kind of things, so some code cannot tell whether or not a program will run infinitely. So if somebody has kept the code, the smart contract, which will run infinite, because no one is there to monitor the code. Okay, so you can't take permission from someone to store the code, to store the smart contract inside the blockchain. Okay, so maybe someone can keep the program which will run infinitely, or one can keep the program which has some fraud, some problem. Okay, just to deny the service, or maybe it's just to make the fun, or just to disturb others. So people can do that. So for that, what they have given is gas cost. Okay, gas. So the idea is they are charging fee for one computational steps. So you have code. So for each step, if you want to run that code, you have to pay the gas. Okay, you have to pay the gas to limit the infinite loops and stop flawed code from executing. Okay, so if the code is very infinite, very big, so then he has to pay the gas. So he has to pay the infinite gas, basically infinite money. That will not be possible. So that they may not be interested. Okay, so this is the one. Now, what is the gas price? So we'll see. This is variable. The gas price is variable. It depends on the value of the current market price of unit of gas. Okay, so if suppose sometimes the ether is rising, the value is increasing, then this gas price will be different. If ether is going down, the gas price will be different. Okay, so this depends on the market. It depends on the market of the ether. Okay, And this is V is basically unit of the cryptocurrency. So the smallest unit of this cryptocurrency Ether. Okay, so that is the smallest one. Okay. Depend on the market price of the Ether. This is depends on market price. Now, what is the gas limit? Maximum amount of gas user is willing to spend. Okay, so how much that the user is willing to spend for that code to execute. Okay, so now what is the gas cost? Is calculated by the gas used and gas price. So gas price is, it depends on the market. Gas used is fixed. Okay, so let us say some code, you see some code, this is fixed already, this we already know, this is already there in the books and everywhere. So this is already fixed. This will not change, but this price will vary. Okay, this depends on the Ether. So what is the gas cost, gas used? Let's say for simple one function, sometimes that for normal transactions doesn't have, it requires this much 21,000 gas. Okay, and then how much he has to suppose. Then generally we'll see more detail, more things, and with some of the examples. Let's say the normal transaction requires generally 21,000 gas. Okay, so I want to execute that normal transaction. So how much gas I have to pay? I have to pay 21,000 into gas price at that time. Okay, that is the value. That is not fixed. That much I have to pay. Then only my code will be executed. Okay, so depends on the resource consumed, instructions executed, and storage limit, storage used. Okay, now if the gas limit is less than gas used in that transaction, okay, so this is I have kept. So I have to keep, suppose I have one transaction. Okay, I want to execute the transaction. Okay, so I have to give the gas. So I have to give the gas. Suppose I have given the gas. Okay, I have given 19,000, and gas used in the transaction is, suppose, let's say 21,000. Okay, so that is less than this is less than this one. So what will happen? Till it will execute till the gas is there. 19,000 gas is there. So after that, it requires 2 more thousand. So after that, it will stop, and it will, after that, it will not execute. So my transaction will not be executed, and also my gas also will not be refunded. Also, gas also will be exhausted. It will not be refunded. Okay, this is the case. So I have lost. If I have to keep, if I want to execute the transactions which takes roughly this much gas. Okay, so I have to keep more than this much gas here. Okay, if I keep less than this one, I lose this gas, that much money, this into the gas price, as well as the code also will not be getting executed. That's it. So this is the unit for V, and this is the basic unit of the Ether. 1V, then we have KV, MU, G, S, F, then Ether. So Ether is roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 to the power 18 V. Okay, so the major currency is Ether. So this is the basic unit. The higher unit is okay. So you can see this is the contract address. Okay, it's possible to get the balance in the address. So this is the address. This is the address, you can say hash of the public key. Okay. Now you want to get the balance in this address, you can get by this code. You run this function, and that function will give you the owner address dot balance and the return balance. So this function will give you the balance in this address. So this is the way you can call these functions. Okay. So there are some other addresses are there, like transfer. So you want to transfer some money to some other account, some other address. So this is one of the function, built-in function, transfer. So that these are the three functions, they do the same work. Through these functions, you can transfer the money from one account to another account. But they have difference. Okay, that the transfer ether in. So here in this function, suppose somehow the transaction fails because of not sufficient gas. The user has not kept sufficient gas or some other way around. So if the transaction fails on the receiving side, then what happens? An exception is thrown to the sender and the payment is automatically reverted. That is the facility. So although any gas is not refunded, gas will not be refunded. So whatever is transferred, that will be reverted. But gas which is used, that will not be refunded. Okay. And so this function needs to execute normal transfer function, transfer the ether from one account to another one. It takes roughly maximum of 2300 gas, 2000. Okay. Now send function works same way. Only thing is, you see that if the transaction fails on the receiver side, the value of false is returned to the sender, but payment is not refunded. It's not reverted. That is refunded. So here the payment is reverted. If fails, payment will be reverted. Here payment is not reverted. Okay. So it must be handled correctly. So again, it takes the same amount of. Similarly, call also. Call also, this is the structure to call this function to transfer the money is similar to the send. Again, it will be false will be returned to the sender, but the payment is not reverted. That is, these two are similar, and this is different. Okay. For example, suppose the destination address dot transfer 10. If you use transfer function, even this is not received by the receiver, it will be refunded. So it's not a problem. But here, in this case of if you use send function, so if it is, you have to be careful. So it has to be if it is not received by the receiver, it will not be refunded. It will not be what you can say reverted. Okay. So what you have tried is you have tried one different code. This code you have tried. You have to be careful. So if this is false, means something is wrong with the receiver side. And receiver has not received the money. So what you will do? The revert. You have to write the revert code. So revert the money. So this you have to. So this is the complete. Here it is. This is complete. But in the case of send function, this is complete. Okay. Similarly, in the call also, you have to write this revert code. Okay. Because already you have seen this part send. If it is false, if the transaction fails on the receiver side, then the value of false is returned to the sender. So we got the false, and this will be true, and then you have to revert it. The money will be reverted back to the sender. Okay, this is the case. Okay, so this is the type of transactions. So in the blockchain, what type of transactions will be there? Okay, so in the blockchain, we see request to modify the state of the blockchain. So transactions are basically will modify the state of the blockchain. So you have external transactions, EOA, IRC, contract account. If you so these kind of things will be there. So either you have EOA and contract account. So you can have year to year and contract account to EOA and EOA to EOA. So you can have 4 ways and contract to contract. So that's what 4 ways are here. And these transactions will be in this format. So from where sender, this receiver, and the value, the data empty, the gas limit, and the gas price. This will be there in the transaction. Okay. As I already told you, they execute a function on a deployed contract. So if you want to execute a function, the function will result in a transaction, and that transaction will be added into the blockchain. Okay, that information has to be into the blockchain. This is the way. Executing a function in a contract that changes the state is considered a transaction. Okay, and deploy a contract on the Ethereum network. Okay, so this is our transaction. So you have transactions. So there are three types of transactions. One is transferring the money. That can happen 4 ways. Okay. Second is what are the transactions? You execute the code, you execute the function of the contract, and that results in the transaction. So whatever the things that output of the function will result in the transaction, and that transaction will be added into the blockchain. This is another type of transaction. And third type of transaction is while deploying the contract. So the contract will be inside the transaction, and the transaction will be added into the blockchain. So these are three types of transaction in the Ethereum blockchain. Okay. So now we'll see some examples of contract. Okay. Some examples of contract. So some already we've seen one. So this is the wallet. I have the contract, the smart contract, my wallet contract. Okay, so the contract is owned by me, and this is my wallet contract. So I can transfer the money from that contract to some address. Maybe I want to transfer some money to your address. So this contract will be, I can use this contract. Okay. So now see, these are the mappings address to this one. Okay. So how much money that this is the mapping already you see. Function. This is the constructor function. Okay, you've seen. So this will be executed when the contract is deployed into the blockchain. So whoever has deployed, that person will be the owner. So owner is basically the message sender who has deployed. So this is the way the constructor is used mainly. Okay, to set the owner. And then this is the function. So I'll click this one. Okay, so this, because this is my wallet. This is my contract, wallet contract. Okay, this is wallet contract, not the normal contract. And that is my wallet contract. So only I will be allowed to use this one. Okay, so there will be constraint. If message sender is not owner, then you can't do it. So only message sender can execute this function. Okay, you can see. And then if amount is false, then the recipient amount will be added. Okay, so through this contract, I can transfer the money to the recipient. Maybe a contract, it can be contract, account of the contract, it can be the address of the person. Okay, so I can transfer using this. So this is a simple wallet contract. You can see the outflow of the recipient will be, instead it will be amount will be 0, some amount will be there in that one, that will be added, and the recipient doesn't receive the one, then it will be, exception will be thrown, and then okay, then this is the contract which you have seen, which solves the hash puzzle. Okay, smart contract that rewards the user who solves the hash computational puzzle. Okay, so we have seen the puzzle. The whoever solves the hash puzzle, he will be rewarded some money. This is the code. So for this one, in this contract, if you have solved the puzzle, you will send your answer. The input for this contract will be your answer. If your answer is correct, okay, then what you'll do is, if your answer is correct, what you'll do, it will transfer the ether in your account. Okay, and if it is not correct, it will not do anything. Okay, and second thing is, in this code, first facility they are given is the owner can change the that reward value. Okay, if I am the owner, I can change the reward value. That is one thing. Second thing is, if you have solved the hash puzzle, you will be rewarded with the some money. So that is this. So now you can see the content is the variables, and you can see log boolean function, true or false, owner, and then you have reward money, and then you have difference. This is used in the hash puzzle, and the solution. And then you see this is the puzzle, this is the constructor. So once it is deployed, it will set the owner. Whoever is the owner, that will be this. And it will set the reward also. The constructor will set the person will set the reward, and then the difficulty of the puzzle. Okay, it should, whether it should be less than 1000 or it is less than 500 or less than 100. That will be more tougher. That will be set by the sender who deployed the construct, by the owner. Okay, that he can do. Now this is the main function, main code. So what it does is basically here, if the owner wants to change the reward money, he can change it here. That is the code here. So in this contract, they have given the facility that the owner can change the reward money. Okay, so you can see here, if sender is the owner, okay, then he can change the reward money. Reward will be the message value which he has sent now. That will be the new reward. Okay, and as if the not owner, other people are there, then they may have the solution. Okay, so their solution will be checked first. If this is their solution, if that hash of that solution is less than the difficulty value, then it means the solution is correct, and they will be rewarded the money. Send that reward money, and the solution will be the message data, and the log will be true. So after that, no one can send the message, send the solution. So log will be true. Initial log is the false. So this is the another smart contract that rewards the user who solves the computation puzzle. So this is the way contracts are in the Solidity language. Okay, so we'll have one break. So we'll meet now 10:23. So we'll meet at 10:35. Okay, so maybe so 2 minutes. Okay, so maybe I'll complete this part. Then we'll see. Okay, this one more contract is there. So you can do the voting also. Election also you can do. Okay, so that also purpose you can write the contract. And in the elections you need the candidate name, ID, name, and voting, the count, number of votes. And then there may be store the accounts that have the voting. Okay, the person who has voted. If I have my address, I voted, it will be true. So after that I cannot vote. Okay, and then you have mapping fetch candidate, the ID with the candidate name. Number one candidate is this party, something like that, and which stores the candidate votes. So these kind of some variables or the things will be there. And then we have candidate one, candidate two, add candidate. So add candidate basically the voting. So if you have voted to candidate one, so add candidate one. This is the way voting will be there. So you have to call this function. So if you are voting to the candidates, so you have to call this function. Okay, and you have to give the input as candidate one, the argument candidate one, candidate two, candidate three, and automatically the vote will be added into the candidate. So this the person who is voting, he has to give this one. Okay, and then we have function vote, and then all these things are there required. This will be checked. So add function is there. This will be checked whether the candidate ID is from 0 to 10 or not. There is a 10 candidates are there, and somebody is giving 11. That will not be valid. Okay, and then this will be true. Voter center is